All right, all right. Peace and blessings to Safo, the Honorable One, the Success Scholar, Akish Shakur. Me here. I wanted to do this piece. Uh, I saw a interview maybe about 4 or 5 days ago, maybe a little sooner. Uh, Damn it. All right. I saw this interview that was done a few days ago with Sonetta and Prince York, and Prince York suggested or commented something to the effect that Polight was the hottest in the conscious community, and I'm just wondering, like, where is he getting that opinion, or was this attempt to slight Umar? Um, and it may not be true. It may not necessarily be the necessarily overlook, or I don't know if that was the necessary intent, but if I was necessarily looking objectively speaking, and if I was suggesting as a journalist, if I was to say who is perceivingly the hottest, uh, I mean, however I feel or anyone else may necessarily feel, I would have to give that to Umar on particular levels. Now, and of course, many individuals are defining the conscious community in many different ways. So I just want to give a little analysis or understanding of what the conscious community is for those who may not know, and to add some key insights. But what's interesting about that particular interview that I saw was that Prince York did not, and I commented on it. He did not. Uh, he took a picture with Africa Bambaataa, right? And so I had to ask him, what what did you? I'm sorry. Why did you do that, or something to that effect, or what's your feelings on that? That was the comment. What is your response to that? Now, this is obviously rather recent. Um, this is obviously a rather recent picture of Prince York and Bambaataa. So Prince York comment was, well, I need to evaluate that. Now, for those who may not know, African Bambaataa was accused of, some inappropriateness regarding children in New York. He's known as one of the founders of hip hop music, but he has been accused of uh, uh, inappropriate touching and fondling and some other stuff that was perceived as being inappropriate. So, so about the allegations, you still take a picture with Africa Bambaataa, right? So Africa Bambaataa, out of all the people rolling around, in New York, he's still walking around. But I ain't gonna talk about that. But what you do not know, for instance, is, I mean, well, what you do know is that Polight did this picture with Becky. So you know about that, which was rather very, very recent, but you don't know about, I would have to investigate. When you had all these people up in NY with a major press conference, and some of the people that were there, but you can't speak on that, or you had to do some investigation. Like, I mean, you're not like a child, man. You're not like, you weren't, I mean, maybe you were incarcerated, I don't know. But I mean, where were you for the past, hell, 4, 5, 6 months? Like, really, you didn't look to see what was going on in New York? None of that time. I mean, you didn't look at none of these different. I mean, a lot of people talked about it. So that's what I wanted. First, I wanted to address that because I'm not buying the I have to investigate it when there are 6 or 7 people that were there that get 10, 15,000 views on their videos, including Sinetta, and no one, you didn't think about, like, you didn't think about looking into this, or protecting our children. Hmm? What kind of leader are you? What kind of leader are you trying to become if you can't assess people and know that there may be something tangible there? No, no, huh? No. So this is some stuff going on that first and foremost I have to address. But what I'm also going to speak on is that there are some individuals, for instance, that have considered themselves leaders, including Dr. Umar, including some of the DC folk that are now talking about the now talking about the organ trafficking and the sex trafficking, which is certainly an issue. We gotta be aware of it, but none of these individuals have done an analysis or really spoke or did a formal investigation or community hearings about Dr. York, right? The father. So, I'm just like, man, we talk about the Illuminati in Hollywood, and Dr. York comes out of that, as well as uh, the music industry, and many of these different speakers. They know about this. They know about this for years. Huh? They see the dynamics, the the agenda, the Black Lives Matter agenda, the agenda to make the LGBTQT, and now, and whatever else, anybody else want to think of, make that the key issue to you to focus on, instead of focus on what you need to be focused on, producing and providing food, clothing, shelter, education, medication, and self-defense. It's just what I know. It's a shot bias. So I'm just wondering, first and foremost, of course, just coming off of Dr. York, that why haven't these other leaders, I mean, even some of the elders, when these things were allegedly taking place, like, they didn't have any inkling, particularly the so-called comedic teachers out here. They didn't feel or hear anything. That's hard for me to find, because there's a sister down in this area who said that she treated some sisters, right? She treated some sisters that had some type of STDs, and she said she got it from Dr. York. So, I mean, she ain't had no reason, and this was years ago. I had, like, no. I mean, I knew, and let me just say how many years ago. It was about, I've been a vegan 7 years, so about 7 or 8 years. So that's what I know. She had no reason to just tell me this, but so she ain't say who specific particular clients was, but just a holistic naturopath type of sister. So, but what I will add to that, in terms of who's the hottest. I don't want to, like sound like I'm per se jock riding or anything like that. I'm not necessarily doing that to thrust anybody up or grab on anybody's coattail. But I'm objectively looking at what individuals have done. Now, let me just offer both the criticism as well as self-criticism of myself, but also to look at um, what direction Umar has gone and how he maneuvered and how he could have did some things better, how he did some things good on some levels, and how he could have done some things better, right? Because let me just go back. Maybe I think it might have been 2010. I had Dr. Umar in Baltimore for a Kwanzaa event, and a few sisters helped Mia and Mama T. If you want, let me give them a shout out for assisting with that. Uh, I recently heard maybe, I don't know what conversation it was, but Dr. Umar said something about how, oh, I know what, Sinetta. He said if how the people in Philadelphia were holding him down. And as soon as he knew he would get out his message out, he knew it would expand substantially. Now, here's what I think the more practical one thing he did right was first and foremost recognize that some individuals, in fact, may hold you down. Some individuals are going to uh, be more agent-like. They may not necessarily be per se agents, but they act in a way to keep you, down. And I've experienced this, of which I'm going to share, in a second. So with that, Umar said that as soon as he got out and had got out of Philadelphia area, he knew his message would blow up. But what I will mention, for instance, and this is not me hating, but why I cannot necessarily defend Umar about some things, because I've experienced some of the same things, and we had a very, very brief conversation. Now, I wanted to, start, I went in a few different places for a reason. I wanted to lay some things out about how sometimes, you have to reposition yourself for whatever reason. Um, there was some years ago, there was a conversation that I had with a sister who, unfortunately, she has transitioned, right? But there was a disagreement. Now, many people know, for instance, in Baltimore, me, I've been reading, of course, started off reading, started off bringing, attending lectures, and then realizing that the lecture model, for instance, was limited in the Baltimore market. I started going to lectures in the DC area, as well as setting events up in the Baltimore market, hosting lectures. But I didn't realize something, that there were people following me to DC, like, to the lectures. And I didn't realize this. And how many of you all have seen the recent All Eyes on Me, right? Right? And when Tupac was in jail and he had a type of revelation, hypothetical, or however, if the movie was, they were creating it just for Hollywood, but how he was in jail, and he started thinking back to the time that he was shot, and the people that were there and listening to the Biggie Smalls music. Uh, I recently had that experience. I just reflected back, you know, on some years ago of how the people have positioned me or to neutralize my work, right? Now, many people saw, for instance, in places like Baltimore, where I was bringing Ashwa Kwesi to town, he would have the largest, uh, the largest cadre or attendance on the East Coast. He told me that Ashwa Kwesi brought him to Baltimore 3 times, had the largest contingency of any group, right? As well as several others. Brother Imwali Muparudi had been pushing and promoting his book for years. Of course, I was reading the scholar's book, and he's someone that I would certainly have hoped that Umar, if you are, coming up the ranks, I think a process certainly needed to be put in place. You edify the elders until they can't do the work no more. The wisdom of the elders. And I don't think, for instance, that Umar actually has really studied the work of Brother Baruti or sat down with him more intimately and had, these interactions. It's just like, oh, I'm young. Let me just get out here. I got this knowledge. Let me just, spit. Let me just talk and speak. And without necessarily going through the process of edifying the elders. For instance, Baruti, Cambone, the Kamal, you know, individuals who have a good, well-rounded foundation of knowledge, right? So I believed that certainly should happen. But getting back, I was going down to DC some years, doing some different events and lectures, mostly bringing some different speakers to Baltimore, some messages that I thought were relevant and still are relevant. But I didn't see how I did not necessarily project my knowledge, just being humble, pushing other individuals that I believe sincerely were more mature, they had more wisdom. So let's make these connections. Let's bring the scholars together, with the right individuals. I was the last one to bring Steve Coakley to Baltimore before he transitioned. Um, I moderated that event, not some of the other groups that Coakley were a little questionable about. Yeah, Coakley questioned some of these different groups in Baltimore that were doing these lectures. For those that know, they know. We ain't gonna get all into that, but many of the real conscious people, they know what went down. And this is, let me bring it up to speed. There was a discussion, right, that a sister that knew Umar, right, she's had been hanging with him somehow. He went up and drove her around. But we were chit-chatting, and I guess you could say we were talking a little bit. But the sister got upset with me because first I didn't eat meat, right? And I just thought that, as I was growing, I realized that some of the RBG sisters were not refined. So this sister got upset because I just said, "You drink beer?" I'm like, I mean, what kind of conversation we gonna have? Like you 35, almost 40 years old, 35, 36, student loan debt out to Ying, no job, and you talk about you drink beer. Now, I don't know what kind of conscious brothers you talk to. Maybe when Umar took you out and y'all went hanging, maybe he allows for this type of misbehavior. But a black woman that drink beer can't do nothing for me. If you over 25, 26, 27, and you ain't grow up and put down the damn malt liquor, whatever kind of beer you drink, then you still are under control. And I know there's some fake half hotep RBGers out here. They have no holistic lifestyle whatsoever, and they will tell you they will smoke anything, they will drink anything, they will hang in clubs and parties. They have no rhyme or reason or rules or regs to their existence. So sister got into it. We got into it. I mean, it was very brief. It wasn't nothing crazy, but a little rah rah. Some of them little sisters are a little rah rah. Uh, so what I didn't peep, right? What I didn't peep is some of the, the anger and frustration that people saw with my evolution. People saw, the rise. I'm bringing people to Baltimore, marketing books, going different places. People see people see the crowds. People saw when I had Dr. Francis Cress Wilson, over 350 people present on a Easter weekend, right? On a Saturday, on the Easter weekend. I traveled up and down the East Coast promoting for that event. And I'll just say, had some help, thanks those that assisted with that. Bundy Shah, Sister Mia Miata, and Mama T, 3 individuals assisted with that. So I'm not, I didn't say I did everything by myself, but I was on the road. But I didn't realize, from this little sisters interaction that we would have, some of these fake elders out here, these fake Hotep elders, you know, and I'm just realizing now today that some of them actually were agents, right? This officer in Baltimore, man, this guy was going in people's inboxes and like a little girl going in people's inboxes, going in my ex-girlfriend's inbox, like, chit-chatting. I mean, just in Barudi's inbox, in the DC group's inboxes, like, just, we need to boycott him. And that guy up in New York, Kepra, who, just a flip-flopper. Uh, so I just realized that I waited too long. I waited too long. I should have been evolving and, developing the level of independence of thought. After I paid my dues, After I put, individuals like Baruti on the scene, although he did his thing, I knew that I had certain organizational skills, right? And I set my life up to where I would have some revenue streams, huh? I'll have some independence, and I know how to position myself. So when I realize now that I'm thinking about all that went down, and I was thinking about, for instance, how Umar took he kind of said, I'm not going to be I'm not going to be no follower. It's a pro and a con to that, because again, some of our elders need to be listened to. You need to be putting their books out in front of people, really, for real. So I don't know. I'm a real conscious brother. I don't know what's out here now with these these unevolved brothers out here that's not working strategically, that's not healing themselves, just angry, frustrated, huh? So I've had to evolve a little bit because again, I didn't know, for instance, and this is what I'm realizing. My name is Haki Shakur Ami, right? And I recently read Dr. Michael Eric Dyson's book. I was doing a panel discussion for Tupac, the FBI war on Tupac. And I was reading different sources, trying to get, different insights into, the life of Tupac, of course, because I was influenced, growing up. And that's where I got my name partially from, for real. So, I wanted to do this event. So I was reading Dr. Dyson's book and read the FBI war on Tupac. So that was the panel. But what's interesting about the Dr. Dyson's book, Sonia Sanchez, he interviewed Sonia Sanchez. And she gave a testimony of how her daughters or nieces were listening to Tupac Shakur, and she asked them, "Who is that? Who is that? He's conscious. Who is So she was listening. She was, and her daughter or nieces or something. They said that's Tupac Shakur, and she said she stopped what she was doing, and she said, "Who is that?" or something. Who is that? He needs to be protected, right? Or do he know something, who that family is or that family name? And so, because she didn't know the at that time the connections between Tupac and music, and at that time while he was coming up, before she knew him. So her idea was to protect him, or that was what she said, told to Dr. Dyson, that he's going to be targeted, right? So this brings me up to date, for instance, with the whole Trump thing with the movie, and how I realized personally that many of you all, and I realized the power and the need that there have been individuals, for instance, that have acted towards. And now, for instance, when people see my work, and even some of these young folk in Baltimore, for instance, or even in DC, they young, they don't read anything, they haven't, really talked to anybody. So they're going off of propaganda. And the propaganda even went down to Atlanta, it went down to Philadelphia, and some spaces in New York, where even, for instance, these folk had some kind of awards in Atlanta, and they wouldn't didn't even have the Success Scholar on any list. Although, you know, I I'd say built that Harambe radio network. I wasn't the founder, but I know that, and I've had Umar on, I've had several others on, Polight, Seti, Jeannie, Baruti, some Baltimore folk. But I realized that people won't respect you until you show that you respect yourself, right? And this is what I allowed for individuals to do. And this is why I had to reinvent myself on some different levels, right? Realizing that I'm looking back on this now because my name is my name. And you know what I stand for is certainly going to be what I stand for. But I realized that I allowed for people to block my relationships with some of these key elders, like Baruti. Some people wanted to create that division. People saw people saw what my background was, what my abilities was, my reading skills, my organizational skills. So what happened? People put out this boycott thing. Can you believe that? Some 6, 7 years ago, a Negro law enforcement officer put that out there, and many of these so-called conscious Negroes, huh? Many of these so-called conscious Negroes, they got it hook, line, and sinker. And now you have young people. You have young people walking around. They don't know any better. They like, who are you? Like, really? So this is where I've had to reinvent myself to a significant degree. This is why I had to really reach out, and now I knew that I had to position myself differently within the movement, knowing history, knowing the counterintelligence operations that are going on, and some people trying to incite individuals to act in a certain way. I'm like, man, it ain't that much. I'm gonna keep on teaching. I'm gonna keep on sharing. But I realized that there are individuals out here that would like to block you for whatever reason. Now I believe sincerely, now that I look back at this, now that I look at myself and I survived the 20s and 30s and more mature, got a little capital behind me, huh, in some unique empowered circles. So I realized that, you know, things are not going to come easy, right? Things are not going to come easy, especially when you're not a beggar, and you take care of yourself. You build, you organize, you study, right? So in closing, I'll close with this. I was looking at something, in terms of my unique analysis and perspective, and and how I'm going to continue to build off of the legacy of many of these great ancestors. But my differences, for instance, with some of these individuals is that while many were studying in school, for instance, or partying or whatever, stepping, I was studying, our history. I was studying business. I was studying trade relations. I was studying culture and consciousness, right? I was organizing, gaining experience and wisdom, building allies, building the right allies, knowing that there's going to be a time where I'm going to have to step it up. And that time is now. It's no question. in my mind. So I'm not I'm not waiting to be endorsed by individuals that may not necessarily have the true self confidence to edify other individuals. Like I've been upholding and pushing other individuals up. I individually started a group in Baltimore called the Black Think Tank. Many of these other folks, these older folk, they want to take claim and responsibility for that work. But I know, for instance, much of the economic foundation for that would not have been possible without my work and my family, sacrificing, allowing for me to, sacrifice to do this, in my extended network that I've created through the Harambe network, the more than 2 hours, almost two, sometimes 3 hours that I did for 4 years all over the world, right? So this was a little bit before the blog talk and YouTubes and everything, but we've interviewed dozens of individuals. I did that for 4 years, right? And I don't know, I realize some people still remember. I see people, mostly some of the older folk, and they say they still remember many of the shows that I did on Harambe. Now, I know I have open door policy with Harambe, though it would have been nice if individuals would have offered me to, after my book was published, to come back on. That would have been nice. And it would have been nice for these other individuals who have these platforms. I've been on Sinetta some years ago with Abundance Child, but we were at the debate of the decade some years ago, and I know I said some things about some individuals, particularly the drug issue in New York, that some people didn't think that it was appropriate, but I knew that my message for those that feel that they needed to deal drugs was a more relevant, practical message for that time. We can't have individuals teetering, 1 foot in the drugs, 1 foot, as one brother say, in the mosque. So we can't. We gotta be very careful. Folk want to be in the streets, you stay in the streets. If you want to be a revolutionary, be a revolutionary, be a builder, be a man, be a productive being. So I'm saying I started off with the conversation. Yes, again, if we look at it objectively speaking, Umar would be considered the hottest, right? But I just wanted to add how he got hot. Now, let me just mention one thing. I forgot to say this, and why I can't. I talked to Umar. Let me just. Sorry, I didn't mention this earlier. This was some years ago, and I don't have the text. I thought I did, but he said to me, "The conscious community is upset with you." Now, I'm just like, I told him I am the conscious community, right? And he didn't have a comment, after that. So my idea was that okay, so somehow all of these agents have created that wedge between me and Umar to where he's just like, oh, I'm not gonna stand up for him. I'm just gonna let yeah, he's a nobody, right? He's a nobody. I don't need to defend. I don't need to defend him. Although, because I told the sister I don't drink beer, I don't eat meat. No, no, no. So yeah, so I guess that was him allowing for me to get thrown under the bus, right? So I'm saying No, you know, I'm a boss, man. You know, at this particular stage, I'm like, I'm not coming up under individuals, and it's really a shame that many of these so-called leaders, these so-called teachers, these so-called elders, would allow for the success scholar, for them to think that the success scholar is irrelevant, that they're gonna try to push me down. Well, as you can see, and as you will see, without a question, without a doubt in my mind, that the success scholar is here and I'm on the rise, right? So I say for those that are ready to join the most relevant, the most practical, empowering movement of this time, right? I'm saying I'm here and I'm ready to go to another level. So I'm saying I got the knowledge, the plan, and the strategic alliances, not just to take myself to another level, but to take you to another level as well. So I'm saying if you are ready and truly ready to grow, because I'm saying I'm saying that things are gonna go far real fast, brothers and sisters. I got the library and I know the right people. All right, I know the right people, and I think that the right people are gonna have to wake up fast. They're gonna have to wake up fast, and this is how fortunately, although these individuals pushed me to the side, you only inspired me to go greater, right? So I'm saying for you all that, you know, ready to go to another level, you're serious about freedom and empowerment and healing our community. There's only one individual that you can look towards today and in the future, and that is the honorable one, the Asafo, the success scholar, Haki Shakur Ami. So I'm saying you need to show up. You need to show up. You need to tune in and listen to the success scholar as I drop the most relevant, practical, strategic knowledge of this time. So I'm saying you all stay tuned in, get my book, support, donate to the most relevant movement of this time. Holla at the success scholar. I'm out.